Hello friends, I'm so glad you're here today because I'm taking a piece that I created in a previous video. You might remember it. We did it back when we were doing patriotic, and I had painted the back side in green because we were going to use it in a future DIY. Well, it's the future and we're doing a DIY. So stay tuned and see what we did. Also, I had a friend who needed some home decor, and guess who she came to help her? You guessed it, me. So you're gonna see us creating that together. So let's get started. My friend Charity bought these two adorable decor pieces at Dollar General, but they just did not match her decor. So we got busy and started creating. First of all, we just sanded down that little middle piece so that we could get it ready to paint. So we grabbed the faded burlap and she started painting. She started painting the center part of that. Looks like we primed it with some white, and then she gave it 2 good coats of faded burlap. When she got 2 good coats of faded burlap on there to her liking, then she used the heat gun and dried it. No tape necessary because she's an excellent painter. Next, we had poured some resin, and these little molds, I believe these were from the rosette mold, and we made some custom colors because Charity had recently purchased a new home, and she purchased a rug for their family room, and we chose colors and designs that would match her new family room. So the Farm Fresh was a color that was going to match her rug, and look at her looking like a pro. And she's going to paint all these little pieces. I'm not quite sure which mold these were poured in. I normally show you the mold and the name of the mold, but we really weren't even sure we were going to record this or ever even use this footage. So I apologize for the lack of professionalism that we used in doing this, but we were having a great time crafting together. And now here's another beautiful custom color that we created to match her rug. And the rug that she had, I wish we had a picture of it, was absolutely gorgeous with all these colors. I believe that this little medallion looking piece came from the rosette mold also. Now we got them all painted up. They look beautiful. Now we're going to work on the little frame pieces. We're taking the dark wax by DIY and just going to zhuzh them up just a little bit so that they look a little more appealing. Now, I get my DIY products, waxes, paints, etc. from Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs. So her website will be linked in every single video that I produce, and it's www.unicorndustdesigns.com. So just check that out. If you need any DIY, IOD, Saltwash, or you just want to go check out and see what all she has on her website. We are also going to use that dark wax for our resin pieces to seal that DIY paint and give these resin pieces some dimension and bring out all those beautiful details. Look how that wax brings out those beautiful details. I'm using a chippy brush. Charity is using a makeup brush. You've seen me use both of these in all of my videos, and this is her first time doing this method, and look, she is a pro. Show her some love in the comments below and tell her what a wonderful job she's doing, because she watches all my videos. She's a great friend and she's a great viewer. Okay, now that we're about finished with this, they turned out great. Look how beautiful they are. We are going to place them on our project. Now, after much deliberation, Charity figured out the design that she wanted. And she also knows now that she needs to put some quick bond, tight bond, quick and thick on her piece, as well as some hot glue. Now, I think the hot glue probably would have sufficed, but we are not going to take any chances on this home decor that Charity needs to last as long as she needs it to last. As long as she wants it in her home, it needs to look great. Now, she wanted these to stand up on her mantle and be freestanding. So we're going to take these little, what are they? They're not Jenga blocks. They are the little blocks that you get from Dollar Tree. And we are just going to put them flush to the bottom of this piece with that same glue method, a little bit of Type Bond Quick and Thick and some hot glue. And now we're going to put it all across the bottom and adhere it to a little piece of scrap wood that I had in my stash that was already stained. We didn't even have to stain it. It was from a leftover project that I never even used. Now, we didn't get the footage of all of this, but we just put it down, held it down nice and tight until that hot glue dried, and then let it dry. These photos she took when she got it home because, like I said, we weren't even sure we were going to use this footage, but she did a great job at capturing these photos. Let me know what you think about how we did on Charity's home decor pieces. Now to the promised piece. Let's do the back side of this patriotic piece, and it is aviary green. And I'm going to use the IOD molds Hello Pumpkin and Oak Leaves and Acorns. Now, I'm going to confess that I did lose some footage or didn't record or something in this video. So I'm going to try to explain this and do it as good as possible. It's all pretty self-explanatory and easy to watch, but just in case. Now, I'm going to take this from the Vintage Textures stamp from IOD and the stone gray ink and just randomly put that texture over this as the background. This is going to be our background for our molds. We're going to put molds on this today. The pumpkins and the acorns. It's going to be adorable. And it was relatively easy. It was a little labor intensive, but relatively easy. I mean, it took a little time. It wasn't labor intensive. It just took a little time. So I just dabbed this here and there where I thought it looked good, where it just made the wood look a little bit aged. And then after I finish that, I am going to take my finger sander and just in some of those places where this chair back, this was the chair back of an old vintage chair. If you didn't see the patriotic video, then you might be able to recognize it, and then you might not. So yeah, that's what we did with that. I'm just going to sand it a little bit. Now this is the Jovi air dry clay. If you didn't see the video a couple weeks ago, I did where I tested out 5 different air dry clays. This was one of, then you need to go back and watch that. It was a really fun video. I'm going to take some cornstarch and dust my molds with cornstarch, all of the ones that I think I'm going to use. I'm going to use the Jovi air dry clay today in these molds. Now, I did not show you the leaves and acorns. I just showed you the large pumpkin because it's very redundant. It's the same method. You're going to press your clay down into the mold as firmly as you can. You're going to use an old credit card, an old gift card, or a spatula like I'm using, a putty knife. Now, this mold is rather large. So I did get out my little, I call it my Play-Doh rolling pin, but it works really good for these larger pieces. And I did not get enough clay, not once, but twice. So I just kept pinching off a little more clay and just warming it up in my fingers a little bit. And then finally, I got enough. And then I did the stem, the peduncle. And you can see that I just kept working it. And then just scraping off the excess with that little paint scraper, putty knife, whatever that little thing is. And then I have that little Cricut tool too. Now I did the 2 leaves there. You can see I did the 2 leaves. And then I did the pumpkin, and this thing is absolutely gorgeous. So beautiful. And then I'm going to paint it not on my project because I don't want to get this lighter color paint all over my green. So I'm using crinoline by DIY, and I'm going to paint the entire thing. And then I'm going to take Sandy Blonde, and while that crinoline paint is still damp, I'm going to go ahead and blend in some of that dark in the crevices. If you'll do it while your paint is wet, it will blend so much easier. And it did kind of start drying on me, so I just grabbed up a little bit more of that crinoline, put it down, and then it created that, that wet again. Then when I was finished with that, I went ahead and got some green paint, and I was out of aviary or a color that I liked, so I just mixed a color. I just took a few of the green paints by DIY and mixed until I got the color I wanted. I put a little bit of weathered wood in there. I just kept mixing until I got the green that I wanted. Bad thing about that is when you run out, you can't mix that same color again. Anyway, this is how it looks, and I'm ready to glue it down. So very carefully, this is like messing with a pancake. You have to turn it, flip it very carefully. I'm going to use the Titebond Quick and Thick. I'm going to put a whole bunch on there. I'm going to take this little silicone spatula, and I'm just going to spread it all the way out to the edges. Now, I sped this up very quickly because this is not something you want to watch in slow motion. It will take forever. So I'm going to just smear it all the way out to the edges, making sure that it's a nice, even coat. Now I'm going to just slap it down on there, and then I'm going to take that little peduncle and just curve it down like that because that looks cute. I'm making sure that it's pressed down all around the edges. Now I'm trying to see where I want my leaves. Yep, don't want that stem on there, just rip it off. And then I'm doing the same thing with the leaves that I did with the pumpkin. I'm going to just place that leaf right up on top of that pumpkin. Right there. Going to make sure I have it pressed down around the edges. I'm going to take my second little leaf over there and see where I want it. And once I figure out where I want it, I'm going to do the whole same process with the glue. You can see why I'm not going to do this same process with every little thing that I did, because it would be very redundant. Okay, I'm going to take some weathered wood, and I'm just going to make that peduncle a little bit darker. Just going to put a little bit there, you can see. Then I decided I thought my leaves on the pumpkin needed to be darker to kind of match the leaves that I did up top, and I just went back and touched them up. And now the acorns and the leaves I did not get on camera painting, but I basically did the same thing I did to as I did with the pumpkins. And this clay is still wet. We're painting it while it's wet. There's less chance of it cracking, but however, I did have some major cracking in that large pumpkin. Larger pieces of clay will tend to crack easier. And I kind of forgot about that, and I don't know how to prevent it, but I did have some cracking, and you're going to see it right now. This is not terrible, but I normally don't have any cracking. This is the next day. I'm going to take a little piece of clay. I'm going to roll it between my hands and make a little rope. Then I'm going to lay it on the table. I'm just going to roll and stretch it out until I get a tiny little rope, and I'm going to lay that tiny little rope right down into that crack. And then I'm going to moisten my fingers. Actually, what I do is I take my spray bottle and I spray a little bit of water, mist a little bit of water on my little silicone mat there that I'm working on. And then I just dip my fingers in it, and then my fingers are moist, and then I can just rub that clay and let it blend in. Okay, so I'm using every little tool I can find, trying to make it work. And my fingers actually worked the best, just using my fingers. So I'm doing the same thing with both of those cracks, and it turned out beautifully. I did have to go back in with some paint. I got that weathered wood and the crinoline and all the colors back out and just touched it up. Ended up having to use a little bit more dark. It ended up quite a bit darker than it was in the beginning, but that's fine because I ended up really liking how it turned out. So you will see me shortly. I'm just showing you how I just kept using that little spatula and my finger and just rubbing it in and taking my time. Now this is where I go back in with that weathered wood and crinoline and just go over that and then go back over in the little crevices that were already previously there and just make it look like that's how it was supposed to be all along. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure and give it that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know you were here so that I can have a conversation with you in the comments. Be sure to always come back and check the replies on your comments. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.